Hello everyone, my name is Denise and today I'll be talking on the topic strength or weaknesses based counseling modalities. Okay, so I've actually prepared a deck of slides which I will show in a not so IT savvy way, but I think it still works. Okay, here. So one of the things that some of my clients ask is that is it in trend these days to focus on more strength-based modalities versus weakness-based modalities? So what they're actually asking is actually quite a good, sophisticated question, because counseling evolved with counseling, or even the whole field of psychology, is a very new field, not older than 200 years officially in the academic world. Okay, and it progressed and evolved, originally beginning in more so-called weakness-based modalities that involve a patient versus doctor approach, like a doctor treating a patient kind of approach, and slowly evolving into a collaborative, equal position coaching, facilitative style kind of treatment method. It evolved with times, and because it was like this, right, a top-down, I'm a doctor administering a therapy, a treatment for a particular illness approach. That's why in the past it tend to be more framed more as a weakness or like a disease, right? And you can still see remnants of that frame of thinking in the DSM-5, which is actually used to diagnose mental health disorders. Okay, DSM-5 or the ICD, I think now it's 11. Okay, with that said, it is a very good question, very sophisticated question, like should we focus more on my strengths or my weaknesses in therapy? Of course, the popular culture believes that it is always quite a weakness-based approach, right? You imagine coming into counseling, sitting on a couch or lying down on a couch and talking about your pains and trauma and what has troubled you. So that is actually built into the culture already, the Freudian way of the psychoanalytic way. Just lie down and free associate, and then let the doctor who's sitting behind interpret it. Okay, so that would be a more traditional way. But these days, a lot of people are looking for a different flavor. They want to go in for the kill, to focus on my strengths for a few brief sessions to get what I really want. Maybe what I want is a job promotion. I want to force my boyfriend to marry me, and I just need some advice on how to strategize to get what I want. Okay, fine. Then you come for counseling for a brief 5 sessions and say, let's just come in, target this issue, kill it, and then I'm out. Okay, that's okay. So there's no easy way to target this topic because it's very complex and very bulky. You might need like a 2-3 year course learning multiple modalities to fully understand it, but I'll try to create a short video to explain to you the differences between strength-based therapies versus weakness-based therapies, and how both can actually be good for you and complementary, and how essentially the secret of the game is it doesn't really matter which modality. If your chemistry with the counselor is good and you trust him or her, and it's a very collaborative relationship where he asks you repeatedly at correct junctures to give feedback and to improve the practice, essentially it will be a good therapy. And the therapist, if she or he knows enough modalities and is flexible enough to incorporate whatever is required when it's required, that it will work. But nonetheless, it's good to know this so that when you are in therapy, you can request for things. Okay, so let's take a look at weakness-based versus strength-based modalities. Okay, so first look at the weakness-based modalities. Tends to focus on past scripting or trauma. Look at barriers to current living. Like I want to get from this point to this point, but there's a rock, right? There's a barrier, so I need to get rid of this barrier so that I can get to this point. So the weakness-based modalities tend to focus on this barrier, and let's see how to get it out of the way. Okay, The ultimate aim is to ground the person in reality, free from past scripting, so that he can make a fresh choice, a decision that is free from influence of the past. Okay? So, this is, okay, to illustrate, let's say when I was young, I was bullied repeatedly by my classmates, by my family, and I just have no peace. So I've developed a very deep mistrust of people. So these days, when I want to go out and date to find a person who can possibly be my boyfriend or husband, I find it hard to trust any man, or even find it hard to make friends. So that mistrust and abuse becomes this rock, right, that needs to be dealt with. So weakness-based modality, or more like trauma-focused modality, focusing on the past, bad things that happened to you in the past that results in not so good scripting, like just I mentioned, mistrust and abuse. Focus on that, how to get rid of the obstacle, so that now you are free. You want to go here also can, you want to move back also can, and move left and right. You're free to go anywhere to make your choice. Okay? Next, let's look at the strength-based modalities. Okay, strength-based modalities focus on the here and now, tend to like to focus on the here and now issues, and more focus on future desired outcomes. So for practitioners of these strength-based modalities, they have to go against the current, because a lot of people tend to come into therapy thinking that, okay, I need to talk about my problems, right? So they come in with a whole bag of problems. Here, I want to talk about all these things today. So to be a strength-based practitioner, it takes a long time, like at least a few sessions, to retrain the client that no, this is not how I do practice my counselling here. In this room, we don't waste any time focusing on past problems, but we move ahead. We look at what you want in the future, because that's where we have control over. Okay, then it hones the mindset. Let's celebrate the good things in life, because if you just think about it, not the thoughts itself, but the meta thinking. Okay, a person who focuses a lot on the darker things in life, the things that are not going right, they tend to be focused on, like, there's a big whiteboard and there's a black dot, but they spend all the time looking at that black dot and staring at it, right? Focusing at the imperfection. I need to get that out of the way, even though it's just a small black dot. So a lot of these modern strength-based modalities tend to focus, like, celebrate what's good in life. There's still the rest of that whiteboard that is perfectly white. Let's learn how to appreciate it and be grateful for that white spaces. So it is trying to hone this ability to notice what's better in your life. Okay. So next up, let's go down into some names which may not make much sense to you, but don't worry, I'll explain them to you. Okay, let's look at the weakness-based modalities. I would like to, weakness-based is really a travesty, not doing any justice to all these modalities, really. And if you are a practitioner of this, please forgive me. I'm just trying to simplify it. But what it means is focusing on the things that, the barriers to living a good life, so to speak. Okay, so there's psychodynamic psychotherapy, there's cognitive behavior therapy, transactional analysis. So two that I like to practice are the two at the bottom, Sfbt and TA in short. Okay. Since this channel talks about books, I'm also going to give you introductory books, easy books that you can read to self-educate about these modalities. Okay, so first book, Sfbt for Dummies. So yes, I read this book. Yes, I recommend it to my clients. It's very good. It comes with pictures, you see, about the various cognitive distortions. A lot of pictures, and also forms like the thought record form. So you can actually really self-educate. So Sfbt, if you have any mental health issues diagnosed by DSM-5, like anxiety or depression, this is the so-called gold standard. If you go to IMH or any clinic, that will be the first go-to modality that they will go to, Sfbt, because it has the most research to prove that it actually works to help you feel better and live a good life. Sometimes working even better than drugs, medication. Okay, so Sfbt is the very first so-called weakness-based modalities, and it has been tested and tried and shown to be effective. So I also like this modality, okay? Also because it offers a very good way of conceptualizing the problem. Okay, next up. The second one would be, that I quite like, Transactional Analysis. Okay, Transactional Analysis, this book is TA Today. You can read this book and self-learn as well. It's very similar to Sfbt. A lot of the concepts are very similar. If I put them, I can chart them down and just show you the different words, the different lexicon, but they are actually describing the same thing. Okay? Basics of TA believe that human beings have 3 ego states: the parent, adult, and child. So a healthy person can shift between each ego state whenever necessary, right? Like when I'm interacting with my child, I will be in parent ego state. Then my child will be child ego state. When I'm at work, talking to a colleague, adult to adult. When I'm talking to my clients, maybe sometimes parent to child, sometimes adult to adult, sometimes child to child. When I'm playing with my child, behaving like a child myself, I'm at child ego state. So it is a great way, very theoretical, at least solid modality with lots of diagrams and pictures, which totally makes no sense to you right now, but when you understand it, they make complete sense. So TA is another so-called weakness-based modality that focuses on obstacles and past scripting and how to overcome this scripting. Okay, next up, let's look at the strength-based modalities. The first one, solution-focused brief therapy. So I've got this book here. My supervisor, Alan, calls this the Sfbt Bible. Interviewing for solutions. It's odd because the way I was trained wasn't really adherent to this book, because it's kind of old book, right? Written by the founder, Insu Kimberg, and her husband Peter De Jong, and now it's quite evolved already with the years. But I still use a lot of the tips in this original book. Like the way I close my session, I always summarize with what's better. So what you want to work on, and then these are my suggestions. This format, I took a lot from this Sfbt Bible, so to speak, and I incorporated in my practice. No matter what modality I use, I always close using this because I want to train the meta thinking about focusing on what's better in life. So my clients actually, they start to know. Towards the end when I'm summarizing, say, okay, so what's better? I will just look at the notes and pick out everything that's better and emphasize it. It's good. It's a good way to retrain that meta thinking. Okay, this Sfbt, you can read this book. It'll be very helpful. Okay. Next one, choice theory, reality therapy. There are many books, but this is the entry-level book that teaches the theory. Choice Theory by William Glasser. He's a psychiatrist. Okay, this is one of my favorite modalities and my latest love, the one that I'm really into these days, because it talks about what do you have control over. You can't change the past. You can only focus on the present. You can make choices to enhance the present and the future, and that's things within your control. Okay. And some people tend to confuse these two, Sfbt and choice theory, but it's very different. I think one of the main differences is that Sfbt is empirically derived modality, which means they are very experienced counselors and they've been in this line for ages, so they just recorded some of their sessions and they watched and looked at, this worked. Asking this question worked. Closing my session like this worked. So then they distilled a whole lot of practices based on this empirical data. But then they cannot tell you why. It's not very solid on theory, okay? Whereas the difference between that's Sfbt. It's not very solid on theory. It will work probably when you practice it correctly. It will work, but you will not know why. It's quite mysterious. Okay, but choice theory is different. William Glasser really thought it through, and he actually developed a pretty complex brain chart. So the theory is more solid for the theoretical model is more solid for choice theory. Not saying that I have any preference for both, because I actually like both a lot. My first love was definitely Sfbt. Okay? Then now, in terms of the strength-based one, it's like slowly moving to choice theory, but I'll never forget Sfbt. Okay. Not forgetting the positive psychology. Remember what I talked about, the meta thinking? Keep on filling in with positive ways of thinking. Celebrate what is good in life. tune your glasses to focus on what is working. Okay? But I'm not trained in positive psychology, so don't take my word for it. Watch some YouTube videos that teach you positive psychology, okay? I only know the first two. Okay, the last one, Clifton Strength Finder, talks about 34 strengths. I'm not trained in that, but I've received that myself because my mom is a coach for Strength Finder. So there are 34 strengths. You do a series of questions, a nice questionnaire, then they will give you a report about ranking all your 34 strengths. So basically you focus in on the top 5 strengths. So this report is good because it will tell you, oh, like for me, I think my 5 strengths are input, strategy, activator, competition, and command. Which makes sense because command, right? Eventually I became the class leader of my MS31, my counselling course, because I've got that command strength. I sort of knew about this for a while because last time when I was in Taekwondo in NUS, I also was the vice president, was a really bad leader, by the way. But there was this something about command, like I like to come in and take control. Not something I'm proud of, but the Strength Finder managed to elucidate all these strengths so I know where to lean on. It's quite good because it helps to pad my resume and also help me to focus in on the search of a job that can help me lean on these strengths. So one of the motto of the Strengths Finder is don't try to fix your weaknesses because that is very laborious and it doesn't really pay well. But you lean on your strengths, right, you'll see great improvements. I think that in reality makes sense, okay, and it possibly can work. However, you must understand that some people, which is I think most of us, have some kind of childhood trauma that acts as a rock here. So yes, you can do Strengths Finder and the strength-based modalities, but you also need to, when there is a rock that appears, don't always detour around it or try to do creative methods. Sometimes it pays to focus on the rock and get rid of it first. That's why I'm also big on CBT. I do a lot of CBT and schema therapy as well. So am I a strength or weakness-based person? I'm both, okay? I do whatever is required. But most importantly, I ask my clients what they want to do. And then some days I'll just, very person-centered, which means I just sit there, listen and offer empathy. Okay, I thought of a way to explain this to you all as well. Let's think about weakness-based and strength-based in terms of virtues. If you are brave enough to look in the past, look at your past scripting, look at your past trauma, you are honing the virtue of courage. Because it's not easy, it's really not easy. Okay? What about Strength Finder? Okay, strengths-based, Strengths, if you want to look at this strength modality, it's also holding the virtue of being able to see and notice and be grateful for the good things in life. So if you have a mix of both, a blend of both, you have courage and also a lot of humility. Over here you have gratefulness and confidence. So it goes hand in hand, and at specific points of your life you'll need either one. Okay, that's why for me I'm not a Puritan. I have like a whole lot of modalities. Let me just raise out all the books I shared with you today. Yeah, I'm that kind. I have so many things. And then this thing that's my mic stand right now, reading Dostoevsky. That's also another thing that I'm doing, trying to get some psychological wisdom from literature, things that are not like labeled as a counseling psychology per se. Okay, it's all important because all this actually helps the practice. Okay, so that's all for today's video. I hope you found it helpful. Sorry that it's kind of long, 19 minutes long already. So I'll just end it here so that won't be too long. Thank you so much. And if you found this video helpful, kindly press like, share, and subscribe. God bless.